Aki, a character willing to sacrifice everything, even his own life, for the chance at vengeance, yet slowly discovering a purpose beyond it. Hameno, the embodiment of survivor's guilt, fully aware that devil hunting will one day claim her life, yet unable to walk away from the only world she's ever known. Denji. In a story filled with layered, conflicted characters, Denji's writing can honestly be jarring, and many viewers cite him as the reason they dropped Chainsaw Man. While many anime suffer from an underbaked supporting cast by pouring all their depth into the main protagonist, Chainsaw Man swings in the opposite direction. Its side characters steal the spotlight, while its protagonist often sits drooling on the sidelines. In this video, I'll be both defending and critiquing Fujimoto's writing decisions when it comes to Denji's character. There may be manga spoilers, so check the timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead. Early on, we learn that Denji's father dies, leaving behind a massive Yakuza debt one Denji inherits as a child. The Yakuza exploit him mercilessly, forcing him to sell his organs and take dangerous jobs just to shave pennies off a total he could never hope to repay. By the time he reaches adolescence, even his most basic needs have never been met. So while other shonen protagonists chase dreams of honor, power, or self-actualization, Denji's goals are painfully simple. Eat bread with jam, sleep in a real bed, and maybe even touch a boob. These map directly onto the bottom tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, rest, and reproduction. His motivations aren't shallow, they're exactly what you'd expect from someone who's never had anything. As for character progression, starting a protagonist from ground zero gives Fujimoto space to craft emotional moments that wouldn't land with a more mature or self-actualized protagonist. Denji's simplicity makes ordinary experiences feel rich, meaningful, and rewarding. We see it in the bonds he builds with Aki and Power, his fleeting taste of youth with Reze, and the moral choices he makes that go against his instinct of self-preservation. These are standard shonen beats: forming friendships, helping others, and choosing to do good even at personal risk. But because Denji begins as someone driven entirely by immediate gratification, they feel monumental. Like when he stays behind to take care of Power instead of going on vacation with Makima, a trip that had motivated him for entire arcs. Or when he tells Reze he wouldn't be able to sleep if more people died because of him, even though earlier he admitted he felt nothing even when his teammates were killed. These moments hit precisely because of where he starts. There's also a layer of meta-commentary built into the writing. When Kishibe first meets Denji and Power, he tests them with questions about revenge, loyalty, and morality. Their answers are chaotic, but instead of being alarmed, he approves, suggesting that in a world like Chainsaw Man, the ones who survive are the oddballs. It reads like Fujimoto's playful defense of making Denji such a wacko. This is reinforced in chapter 96, where Kishibe tells Denji that out of all the devil hunters he's ever met, Denji is the one most suited for the job. And although people don't talk about this enough, Denji's simplicity and frankly, stupidity is an extremely effective plot device. Because he's always thinking with his dick, powerful women like Makima, Reze, and Yoru can manipulate him with ease. This dynamic drives the plot of both parts. His personality also creates a thematic contrast in a world full of master manipulators like Makima, Kishibe, and the strongest devils. Speaking of themes, Chainsaw Man's core ones, identity, exploitation, found family, desire, and control, are clearer because Denji's not complicated. Instead of shaping the world shapes him, and that allows the story's commentary to shine. All of this reaches its crescendo at the end of part 1. After being forced to kill Aki and watching Power get hollow-purpled in front of him, Denji collapses inward, choosing to live as Makima's dog rather than confront his trauma or the truth that he's been her pawn all along. But once Power saves him, Denji finally stands up to Makima, the object of his desire since chapter 1. He rejects her perfect world, insisting life is better with flaws, shitty movies and all. It's arguably the single most important moment in his story, standing up to the person who abused him, someone he still loves, and fighting for a belief that is genuinely his using a plan he came up with. And when the dust settles, Denji chooses to build a family with Nayuta, becoming the stable, grounding presence for a lost child, something he never had. In that choice, his arc comes full circle. We've watched him form bonds under Makima's manipulation, have that makeshift family destroyed, and then consciously choose to create a new one on his own terms. It's the closest Denji comes to real agency, and it's growth that actually sticks, at least for a while. Whether readers find Denji frustrating or not, His writing is intentional, layered, and thematically sharp. His simplicity isn't a flaw, it's the lens through which Chainsaw Man becomes Chainsaw Man. And from beginning to end, that's peak character writing. Now, what in the actual hell is going on in part 2? Listen, just because Denji accurately represents the reality of abuse, trauma, and addiction doesn't mean that experience is always enjoyable to read. Throughout the story, he repeatedly regresses, falling into the same self-destructive habits, giving into impulse, and letting himself be manipulated while hitting new emotional lows. And that repetition is the point of part 2. Denji is slowly realizing that his behaviors hurt both himself and the people around him. He wants to change, desperately, but he doesn't. And in many ways, he can't, because every time he even gets a sliver of normalcy or stability, it's violently snatched away. This isn't tragedy for tragedy's sake, it's baked into the mechanics of the world. Chainsaw Man's universe practically demands Denji's devastation, especially given the true Chainsaw Devil's ability to erase concepts. So the closer Denji drifts towards a peaceful human life, the more violently the world snaps back to destroy it. But again, even though this cycle is realistic, narratively coherent, or even relatable for some readers, it's fair to question how satisfying it is week to week, especially when part 1 already used this exact structure. Readers want growth, even if it's not linear. They're not asking for a Yuji Itadori style turnaround where we go from rock bottom despair to fuck it we ball in a single chapter. But at a certain point, patience runs thin when Denji hits the same pitfalls for the nth time. And that's the core frustration. We're nearly 200 chapters in, and Denji is still making many of the same mistakes he made back in chapter 1. We have seen him grow, first with Aki and Power, and later with Nayuta and the dogs, but those arcs of maturity keep getting reset or erased. And because this is a weekly series, the in-world timeline doesn't match the real-world time we've spent reading it. So while Denji's stagnation might make sense within the narrative, to readers who've followed the story for years, it can feel like an endless loop. Unfortunately, that frustration is reflected in how Chainsaw Man has been performing lately. This chart, though a bit outdated, shows that Part 2's readership has fallen off a cliff. There are a few reasons for this, but it's hard to deny that watching Denji suffer in circles, often at his own fault, is one of them. To be fair, I do think Denji's cycle of suffering is building towards a strong payoff in Part 2. That's honestly one of the main reasons I'm still reading it. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about whether that payoff can match, or even surpass, the emotional climax of Denji's growth in Part 1. And even if it does, will it have been worth the wait? At the end of the day, Denji is one of the most divisive protagonists in modern shonen, and that's exactly why conversations about him are so interesting. But whether you think his writing is brilliant, frustrating, or somewhere in between, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Chainsaw Man fans are passionate, and we all read this series for different reasons, so feel free to share your perspective, just try to keep it civil. Until next time.